morning, good afternoon, and good night, and welcome to the Amateur Otaku podcast. I am one of your hosts, Brandon, the Scarlet Fan Alvarado, and as always, I am joined by the one, the only, the Slayer, Isaac Wolf. What's up, man?
Meow.
And yes, that is Isaac. That is not a cat, though. Just like Alucard can become a wolf, Isaac can become a cat. Or so I've heard. Not that I've seen.
Meow.
That's what I've heard.
How's it going, man?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm excited. Hey, man. Episode 1 of Season 2. This is awesome. The Amateur Otaku is growing, baby.
Exactamente.
Nice. So, guys, thank you for joining us at episode 1 of the Amateur Otaku podcast. It is Season 2, and we have a hell of a show planned for you guys. We're going to talk about a show that has taken Netflix by storm. They just released a brand new season today on Thursday, March 5th, worldwide. And it's a show based on a particular property that has been in players' hands, I would say, for the last, I don't know, actually more than 30 years. And it is one of the most beloved animes, to the point that a lot of subgenres have this game has defined subgenres of gaming, to the point that some games are called directly this X kind of game, or at least half of their name. And we're talking about none other than Castlevania, the horror action RPG like game that has been in gamers' hands since Nintendo all the way to today's time, where a lot of people are still playing either remastered versions of the original or most popular Castlevania games, or brand new games that are inspired in the imagination, themes, topics, and more important, gameplay mechanics that have made Castlevania one of the greatest games ever made by studio giant Konami. And of course, we're talking about the show based on this game on Netflix. And about damn time, right, Isaac?
I suppose so.
So as everybody knows, they just released season 3. So me and Isaac thought it was perfect to start the new season of the Amateur Otaku talking about Castlevania. And we're going to talk about the show as a whole. We're going to talk about what we love, why this is, without a doubt, one of the greatest video game adaptations of all time. And yes, there's going to be a moment where we're going to spoil a lot of what happens on the show if you haven't had a chance to see it. But don't worry. The first little bits and pieces here of the show are going to be us talking about what makes the show work and to motivate you to go see it. We're not just going to jump into spoilers. We're going to let you know when the spoils start arriving so that you know either to pause and come back or to stop altogether for now until you actually get caught up. So, Isaac, how about we talk some Castlevania? I'm ready.
I'm ready too.
Awesome. So, I personally don't have, I would say, a very personal relationship with the Castlevania game. My wife has played a lot more of those games than I have. I do have a couple of them. I've never really cleared them or go beyond the first stage. I don't know. It doesn't really jive with me. But if anything does fascinate me of Castlevania is the world building. The stages are very creative. Its foothold on the evolution of gaming is definitely there because it's one of those games or franchises that's been out there for as long as gaming's been out there to a degree. And what is your relationship with Castlevania? Have you played a lot of these games? Did you play a lot of them growing up? Where are you at with it?
I have just played some of it on the virtual consoles, not original. Not much of that, and yeah, that's about it.
What have you played? Like I know I have the remastered version of Symphony of the Night and Rondo of Blood.
I don't remember what it is. If I shall be honest.
Okay. But it's funny because Castlevania is one of those franchises in gaming that's like when you see a guy with a skirt and a whip, you know it's Castlevania.
Where there's a way, there's a way.
Oh, you're bringing that back, aren't you?
Where there's a way.
There's
Yes,
there's definitely there's definitely a video meme somewhere of Trevor Belmont fighting demons with a whip, and there's that song in the background.
yeah. And yes, people, there is an actual song that goes to that, which is an animated adaptation of Return of the King.
Oh boy.
Look it up. No, it's not a P parody. It's a legit adaptation.
Why do you insist on giving our listeners nightmares? I mean, we're talking about Castlevania already. They don't need even further psychological nightmares with those haunted animations. I mean, I know that's what you do. I know that's your thing. But you don't have to do that to our listeners.
I'm just giving you nightmares, not them. They all are already immune to it.
Oh, so you're trying to say that I'm like the buffer? I'm like,
Yes.
I take it all in and we protect the innocent. Okay, I'll take it. So, so yeah, let's talk about this fantastic show. Now, when people think about Castlevania, they think, of course, monsters, werewolves, crosses, a lot of platforming, um, whips, weird potions, and of course, the villain. Because the whole thing with Castlevania is that Castlevania, of course, is a derivative of Transylvania, which in a lot of literature is I want to say the birthplace, but yes, it is the birthplace and the place where the none other Count Dracula rules. Vlad
I'm
Dracula.
Vlad Dracula,
Ah,
not
ah,
voiced
ah.
by Gary Oldman.
You had to bring that back, didn't you?
Yes,
Or
because
like the guy
Vlad.
from Sesame Street. I am Vlad. Ah, ah, ah. I'm sorry.
That's 2 for 1.
Wow, this is totally derailed. So yes, so monsters, whips, weird holy figures, statues, and Dracula. Dracula is this piece of literature of media that has been explored in multiple movies, multiple novels, and multiple versions, animated, cartoon-like. I don't know. There's a freaking Adam Sandler version of Dracula.
Wait, what?
Well, you know the whole Transylvania thing. He's technically Dracula.
Oh,
I mean,
yo, oh,
it.
oh.
I know it's
Uh,
horrible. I know. It's bad. It is really bad,
I have
and it
I
makes
haven't
too much
seen
money.
I haven't seen them, so no
Good,
comment about it.
good, good. Nobody wants to see Adam Sandler play Dracula except a bunch of kids and their families. So, and he talks like the weird. It's weird. It I don't know. So Dracula. Stop. So this show takes all the things that make the game interesting, that make the game stand out, and they find a very good way to translate this into animation. And I think there's so many good decisions that were made whenever this adaptation was planned out and the way it was put on paper and the way it was translated to the screen and the animation and the voice acting. Because the best thing that they did is that they didn't treat it as if you needed to know that this was a video game adaptation. They treated it as a story, as if this anime was its own thing and didn't depend on you having previous knowledge, which is why I love this show so much. Like, it's one of those adaptations that you can come in and not know anything about it and still be blown away. Like, you knowing what it's about or what it's related to just enhances your experience because it doesn't drag it down either. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I think that's from the get go. And we're just gonna talk about the things that this show does so well. And Isaac, I want you to chime in and stop me whenever you want to mention something. But there's so much that this show does right. And I love how They picked the right characters. They picked characters that don't have a huge role in the game, but they made them into real, authentic characters in the story in the show. I mean, there's so much that this show does right. Let's talk a little bit about the structure. So we have 3 seasons so far, right? And it's
Yeah.
interesting how each season has increments. Like the first season was released in July 7, 2017, only had 4 episodes. They were only like 25, 23 minutes each. Season 2, back in October 2018, had 8 episodes. And then and then today, March 5th, 2020, when we're recording, the newest season has 10. So we've only seen the show for 28 episodes, but I feel, because of the way that it's handled so seriously, like they don't waste any time, they don't waste any seconds. I think they've told so much story in such. It's like, because you and I both know, when you watch like a show, like from, I don't want to say this, but like you watch an HBO show or you watch a show in BBC, most shows are like 3 episodes and they're like an hour or an hour and a half. And yes, you do get a lot of it out of the episode. But I feel that these 28 episodes, in each 20-minute interval, you get so much. You know what I mean? And it doesn't feel rushed. It doesn't feel condensed. It feels like they had a very clear idea what story they wanted to tell, and like I feel that they don't leave anything hanging. Everything is just answered. More mysteries placed. I don't know. I whoever Warren Ellis, which is the person that wrote it, was, I think, is some of the best work that he's done. And did you know, Isaac, this is not the first work from Warren Ellis that we cover.
Okay.
He actually wrote Blade for the anime.
Huh.
I don't know if you knew this. So not that Blade is the best adaptation, because it was decent, and we already covered it back on season 1. I think it was episode 2 that we talked about the Marvel anime. But Warren Ellis on this Castlevania show is 100% on the top of his game. I don't know. He does so good with world building. Like there's a lot of creative, like Powerhouse Studios, animation studios. The team that Adi Shankar, which is the executive producer of the show, brought together. I don't know. Like they wanted to make something memorable, unique, and that really honors the gamer that's played it, but also honors the material and invites other people in. And they definitely achieved it because it's a masterwork. When you first saw the first couple of episodes,
Of
actually,
season 1.
yeah, season 1. What was your reaction? What was your? I mean, Castlevania was coming. We've seen a lot of adaptations crash, fall, and burn. So we're all like, Castlevania is such this beloved property. At least me, when I first knew that it was coming, I was excited. I don't remember if I had a bit of fear, but I can understand how some people would be like, "Oh no, I hope they don't mess it up." You know what I mean? What was your? How did you? Were you thinking it was going to be bad? Were you expecting it to be good?
I
Did you
was
not have
just
any
curious.
expectation?
I did. I was the third of them all, because I just went in. Yeah, this could be fun.
Okay. So you watched the first season. After that season ended, what was your reaction?
Please give us a second season. It might. I might not be how should I put it, super fan of it, but then when I rewatch it, it grew on me.
Yeah. It is one of those, like, we actually I personally watched the entire series again to prepare for the pod, and the rewatchability of this show is amazing. Like, I still watch it and I still see things that I missed. Like the amount of detail and attention to so many things, and it's fascinating. I mean, it's a period piece, so there's a historical factor that influences everything that we're seeing, but then there's all the futuristic stuff that's happening in Castlevania's castle. Um, One of the things that I loved, Isaac, more than anything is before we go into the voice acting, because I think we're going to be there in a while, because I think the cast across the board is fantastic. Like, I think this is one of the most, I would say, show display of talent in a cast throughout. Like, it's not just one person. Like, all of the actors in this voice cast are phenomenal. And like the work that they do with all these characters is just top notch.
Yeah.
Um, so before we jump into that rabbit hole, because I mean, that's a big, good rabbit hole that we want to go to. Let's talk about the things from the game that translate perfectly to the series, which is very hard. The idea of Dracula's castle being a character. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? All the hidden rooms, all the mechanics. It kind of thinks for itself when Dracula tells us what to do. Like all the doors close by itself. It moves from teleports from place to place. I mean, it's like a city inside of a castle. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
like he can be in that castle and subsist. He has a laboratory. All the rooms look different and very particular. It's like very authentic to the game, but also when you go into into Dracula's castle and you see his interaction with the different persons, different people, especially in season 2, because you spend more time in Dracula's castle in season 2, because you're in the heat of the big battle that goes out throughout the season. That's without saying any major spoilers. They capture that very very well, and also in season 3, especially after the aftermath of season 2, the way they explore the castle, it's I don't know, I enjoy that. Um, the action. Can we talk about the action, please, of this show?
It's amazing in terms of choreograph, and it's extremely well animated.
Yes, and whoever thought? And it's funny. You know what's funny? The last person that I saw use a whip in such a cool way was Indiana Jones.
And here I thought you would say Lord of the Rings.
No, we're not talking about horrible stuff here, Isaac. No more Lord of the Rings references. When there's a whip. Okay, damn it. Um,
There's a way.
like I thought that in live action, whenever I saw Indy with the whip, that looked cool. Everything that he did with it, but the way they choreographed the fights and the way that Trevor Belmont, which is the character that was chosen to from the Belmont family to lead the show, I don't know, man. It feels very real, and it doesn't feel like a gimmick. You know what I mean? And I think that's the hardest thing because I think we've talked about it before when we were doing the Shatter After episode on Sonic, that some video game adaptations make the mistake of or either not trusting the source material or when they pick something, they just see the idea of this game that makes money, but they don't try to make it organic. They don't try to translate in a way that's not forced or on the nose. You know what I mean? Like I like how everything that you see on this show is very organic, but you can see how it does stem directly from the games. Like whenever you see Trevor throwing knives, that's directly from the game. Whenever you see Trevor using the whip, that's directly from the game. The idea from my perspective that he is extremely acrobatic, that's directly from the game because the game is all platforming. You can't platform the way you have to in those games unless you consider the characters acrobatic. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And just all the monsters. I like how a lot of the monsters look the same, but then you have these particular monsters look a little bit different and act differently. Like there was enough variety in the monster area that that allowed me to enjoy this very very well. Um, so before let's talk about Trevor, and then we go to the one of our favorite character of the show, which I think we both agree is the same person. let's talk about Trevor a little bit. So Trevor Belmont, I do not remember in what game he appears. I don't. Is he from the first? He's no, he can't be from the first Castlevania. He's like from the third one, right? I don't
Let me
remember.
check.
When there's a whip.
I got inside your head already. Good.
No, it's not good.
He's in Castlevania 3, Dracula's Curse. Um, and he has apparently in a comic adaptation. And Castlevania Cure of Darkness. Curse of
Nice,
Darkness.
nice. So Trevor Belmont, directly from Castlevania 3, Dracula's Curse. Um, he is apparently the last remaining Belmont. He is a drunk. He is living in loneliness or sadness. We find out that his entire family was excommunicated from the church and hunted down. Um, and I like how the first season is all about him finding his way back to what he was trained for, what he was raised for, what his family stood for. And the idea of the show being him finding his way back makes him a real character. The fact that he spends the entire season 1 finding his calling and understanding that he needs to do this, he has to do what he can't save people because nobody else is going to do it because nobody has the knowledge or the skill that he has. I like how it makes him a real character, and that's one of those things that this series as a whole and all 3 seasons does very, very, very well, and is the reason why I think this series itself is one of the best things I've seen, not just as a video game adaptation, but as a series as a whole. It's because all the characters feel real. They feel like real characters with real drama, with real wants, with real needs, with real development. Like the way we see the characters in season 1 is definitely not the same way we see them in season 3. Like there is an arc for them in each season. They grow, they change, and
You can say there is more than one arc.
yes. But this is the thing I think where the series shines, because you can easily depend on all the gimmicks that make the game the game. You can make it it's all about the castle, it's all about the monsters, let's kill monsters, have them explode, kill Dracula, done. But no, they told a very serious story. They decided to dig deep into these characters, make them something special, something unique. Um and I love this show for it. And I think there's no other character that's better explored um to an extent. Um in regards to this idea of these characters being real than our favorite villain himself, Vlad Dracula Tepesh. Because there's an H somewhere there, but I don't. That's he always says it with like an H. Maybe it's because Graham Tavish is Scottish. Um, but Dracula, Isaac, the idea that you watch Castlevania, right? You're expecting the platforming, or you're expecting the hunter to come to Dracula's castle and attack, and you're expecting the battle. But then you find out that the first episode of the show, it's all about Dracula.
I just wanted a good show. That's what I wanted.
Yeah, me too. And I think we got that right.
Ex- Excellent.
Now, when you watch the first episode, and you saw the first episode was about Dracula, but not Dracula as the monster that we all know him as, but as Dracula the man. A Dracula that is a vampire, that is king of the night and all that. Like he is all those things that we know he is. But then we find out that this is an episode that shows us the rise and fall or his heartbreak I was not expecting this. I was not expecting this to happen. I mean, I was expecting us to see someone try. I was expecting when I saw this first episode, I thought that we were going to see someone try to hunt him down and fail. And then suddenly we're going to have like a close up to a Belmont and make it like very traditional, very linear. But no, they threw me a curveball from episode 1. No, we're going to talk about Dracula. No, but he's not going to drink blood. He's going to fall in love. Wait, what? And I love this show for it. That is the best curveball that I didn't know that I wanted. What were your thoughts when you saw the first episode that was all about Dracula and that storyline?
My thoughts, they are going to give us a sympathetic villain. Head to the yes.
Who thought that we would be the audience that would sympathize with Dracula?
I mean, the guy on the left.
The guy. No, and the biggest thing is, like, Castlevania is all about the monsters, right? It's all about you fighting these monsters. But what the show tells you from the get-go is that monsters are not the bad guy. Evil is the bad guy, and evil could be performed or manifest in monsters as well as humans. And I like how they set that up from the get-go. The Castlevania Schlicks does a very good job of setting the themes and the way that you're supposed to look at the events, like the lens that you're supposed to use to analyze everything. They give it to you from the very beginning. Like, you need to understand that not because it's a monster means it's evil. There's more to this. Like, this is going to be a show that's going to talk about the philosophy of good and evil and explore it. And Isaac, I don't know if I've ever had HBO have access to it, but one of the things that I was thinking about, especially this last season, this show feels like I'm watching Game of Thrones in the best way possible.
I haven't seen Game of Thrones, but I have read it, and I could see what you mean.
Yeah, there's a lot of like the idea of politics and the idea of drama, the idea of give and take, of power relationships, like the way it explores, especially in season 2 and 3, more in season 3, I think, especially because season 3 tackles, I would say, a total of 3 very different arcs with very different characters at the same time, but it does it in a very successful manner, which, by the way, one of the best climaxes in a show ever seen to me is episode 9 of season 3, because the way they close the loop in 3 main story arcs, or they start to close one but they close 2 others, it's just fantastic. 3 great things happening simultaneously, and 3 things that have nothing to do with each other. They're very individual stories. I don't know, it's all the balls are juggling, but they do everything great. So Castlevania is a show you need to watch if you haven't. Season 1 is getting the band together. Season 2 is literally the preparation to attack Dracula's castle, and season 3 is the aftermath and how evil, even though Dracula is dead, how they face evil in the world, or how other evils are brewing for future seasons and stuff like that. I don't know. The show is fantastic. And so, Isaac, we've described a lot of the show already. How about we go into some spoilers, but more importantly, talk about the actors, because I think that's the backbone of this show. The action is amazing. All the choreography is amazing. The visuals are amazing. But it's the relationships and the actors that bring this performance that actually makes this show shine. Like, you would like at moments that the acting is so good that I think you even forget that it's an animated show, because all the voice acting feels like you're watching a person act, relate, talk, react. And of course, kudos to Powerhouse Animation Studios, because they've delivered and created a fantastic product. So we're gonna start spoilering now. The entire series of Castlevania. We're now going to talk about the voice acting. We are going to talk about season 3 in the last couple of minutes of the episode. So if you have not seen the show, this is where you should stop and go out and get out of here and go watch it. If you don't care about spoilers, stick around for the ride. Spoilers start in 3, 2, 1. So Isaac, Dracula. I don't think that if it, I don't think it's just the animation of that character. It's all, man. It's all Graham McTavish, man.
Yeah.
Graham McTavish, for those that do not know him, he is a phenomenal actor and voice actor of Scottish descent.
And he's also a dwarf called Wall.
Yes, yes, he does appear in The Hobbit. But man, what a phenomenal voiceover performance. There's
He
so much. Go ahead.
makes a phenomenal work with the voice of Dracula.
Yeah.
Also, you know the hologram with the King of Atlantis you see in Aquaman.
Yeah, that's him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And the whole thing with McTavish that to me elevates so much is that the thing about Dracula from the get-go is the whole arc that he has is that he's lived in solitude, and he's reacted against humans whenever they have wronged him or disrespected him. And that's where you get the Vlad the Impaler scenes where you see him impale people on stakes and stuff like that. But he's a man of science, a man of knowledge, keeps to himself. He is visited by this lady from Lupo Village that he falls in love with and teaches her how to be a doctor. But she's a human, and he loves her so much that he doesn't turn her to a vampire. But she starts building in him hope for humanity. And to think that Dracula feels hope for humanity, it's crazy. Like every time you watch or you play a Castlevania game, he's like the biggest villain ever. But the idea that we're looking at him as someone who's trying to get in touch with the world to help because he found love, that is amazing. And that's entirely like the whole first episode until he finds out that the humans thought that his brilliant wife was a witch. Because as you know, it's a period piece, and in the 1400s, in the 1500s, you have all the Spanish Inquisition and all that stuff, killing witches, burning on the stake. So they burn his wife, they kill her, and in his rage, in his heartbreak, this guy rages war against humanity. But the cool thing is, or well, not the cool thing, but the brilliant thing is that he does it because he wants revenge on humanity. Because he lost the person that he loves. So every time Dracula opens his mouth, you can hear the sadness in his voice.
Yeah.
You can hear that this is a broken man giving out commands or going through life these days. And man, if it wasn't because Graham McTavish took so much care in his performance, I wouldn't have believed it. Especially when the animation for Dracula is so menacing.
He's a menacing figure, yeah, because he how should I talk it? Those that are calm and collected, even if they show, you can see that they show something, could sometimes be more menacing than those that are consistently angry, or that.
Right. Yeah, and it's one of those things that with him, you do see his anger, you do see his power, and you know that he can literally kill everyone in the same room in a second. But all they focus on is that every time Graham delivers those lines, you can see the longing in his voice. You can see the sadness, and that's why for me, one of the most brilliant lines towards Dracula occur at the end of season 2. So in season 2, episode 7, that's when Sypha, which is brilliantly brought to life by Alejandra Reynoso, which is a fantastic job to bring her to life, which is a speaker magician. Trevor Belmont, which is voiced by Richard Armitage, which is one of the one of the funniest characters in this show. and also another brilliant performance. And none other than James
And
Callis does the voice
and
for
another
Alucard.
Hobbit. Don't
Yes, there's a
forget
lot of
that.
hobbits in this show. Um, so Richard, so they in episode 7 they attack Dracula's castle and fight him, and there's a sequence at the end of that episode where Alucard and Dracula are going at it one by one, one on one. And Alucard, for those that don't know, Alucard is the son of Lisa and Dracula. And he is, of course, half human, half vampire, so he has a lot of the powers that Dracula has: enhanced endurance, regenerative abilities, and he turns into a wolf, controls a sword with his mind. I mean, he's super awesome.
Never
He's
turns
the main
into
characters.
he never turns into a wolf in the series, right?
Yeah, on episode 7, he does.
Oh, right.
Yes, and of course, the lead character, one of the more popular um entries in the series, which is Castlevania Symphony of the Night. He is the main character, of course, on that game. So, so these three cats attack Dracula's castle, and when Alucard and Dracula are going at it, he says the following to his dad. He says, "Dad, you've been dead since Mom died, literally." And he goes like, "This war is simply the longest suicide note in history." When he says that, I'm like, "Wow, that's like the perfect description um of what's going on with Dracula." And I just love the fact that McTavish went full on this character and really brings that to life. And it's funny because you have Dracula that hates humanity now and because of the loss of his wife. And a lot of the sadness that you find, you also hear it in Trevor because of course he's lost his family. He's a loner. And Richard Armitage does a fantastic job with this character as well. I think what I like most about Richard's Trevor Belmont is the wit that he brings with this character. Um, I like the lightheartedness with this character. But I also like how when he needs to get serious, he gets serious. I don't know. I mean, there's so many complexities in all these characters that I truly enjoy. Oh, and by the way, if you don't want to watch the show for the action or for the blood, you have to watch the show for the interaction and the friendship that develops between Alucard, Sypha, and Trevor. Because the way that Trevor and Alucard talk to each other in season 2,
Yes, some of the funniest interaction I've seen in a while.
yes, and then Sypha, and then you have Sypha and Trevor in season 3. I mean, their interaction, their one-liners are fantastic. Of course, the best ones are in season 2, of course, are when Trevor and Alucard, all they do is curse at each other like little kids.
Yeah.
And as soon as they curse at each other, they just start laughing. Like at the end of season 2, when they're saying goodbye to each other, and Trevor plays nice and goes like, "Hey man, see you," and then Alucard just flips him off.
Pretty much, yeah. They
That
are
is.
acting
Hmm?
about go to hell, stop, kill yourself, kill yourself, and then you just laugh their asses off in the beginning,
Yeah.
for
Yep.
example.
Yeah, they have a lot of that give and take, but I like how among themselves, even in the face of danger, the times that they have that they talk about each other, there's real moments, there's real scenes in between these characters that allows you to care for them. And some might say, especially in season 2, season 3, that the season kind of drags or feels slow. But I disagree. I think it's not that it's slow, it's not that it drags, is that the show actually cares and takes their time to develop the characters. And especially in season 2 and season 3, since they're introducing a lot of new characters or building more on characters that we already know, that's why they take more time to tell the story. But I think it pays off at the end. Like for example, in season 1, you see little bits of action, but the final set pieces that are full of action are like totally, totally worth it. Like the war on Gresham at the end is the battle sequences are fantastic. Um, season two, there's a lot of talk, a lot of politics, but the way they fill it in with the character development between Alucard, the time that Alucard, Trevor, and Sypha spend on the Belmont Library, just learning about each other, learning about all the books, finding the magical items inside there, like when he finds the Morning Star whip, like when he opens the chest and smiles, we all smile with him. You know what I mean?
It's like a child on Christmas.
Yep. And we are child on Christmas because we recognize the whip. You know what I mean? We recognize the weapons, the swords, and stuff like that. When you see the mirror, all that. Godbrand, I think he's like an honorable mention. James Callis does a fantastic job as Alucard. Sypha does a great job on Henry also. I like Sypha more on season three because I think that she has evolved a lot more since. I think she's one of the characters that's evolved the most since season one.
So,
So I like.
so beer is better than sex, huh? Ah.
Yes, Trevor gets himself in trouble very quickly. Um, but
No, no, Trevor. Beer is not better than sex. Far from it.
yes, kids, beer. So in season two, one of the greatest additions to the cast is none other than character actor Peter Stormare as the villainous and treacherous Godbrand, the vampire. Was I the only one that found Godbrand hilarious?
No, and I just laughed my ass off that they had that they used Peter Stormer of all.
No, they brought it. They did a great job finding a bunch of amazing actors for the show. Like they don't only have Richard Armitage McTavish, they have Tony Amendola as the elder of the speakers. They have Matt Frewer as the bishop. The one of the few ones of the near ones that I didn't know who he was Adetu Kumbo McCormack. He's the one that plays Isaac. He's like one of my favorite characters on the show. Like he is one of those characters whose performance reminds me a lot of the caliber that McTavish brings to Dracula. Like that's one of the more real, powerful characters of the show. For me, I really like Isaac a lot. Did you know who makes the voice of Count Saint Germain in season three?
No.
It's Bill Nighy, dude.
Oh, right.
Like
I didn't hear the name you were saying. Yeah, it's Bill Nye, and
Jason
yes,
Isaacs plays the judge in season three, and Rila Fukushima, the one that appears in the movie The Wolverine, and the one that plays Katana in the Arrowverse, she plays the role of Sumi on season three as well. Like this show has a phenomenal cast from top to bottom, and they all bring it. And there's so many moments in the show that I just love. Um, let's talk a little bit about our favorite moments before we just jump into season three spoilers at the end. Um, do you have any favorite moments on the show that you loved? Things that stood out to you that you were not expecting to see?
it's mostly either scenes with Dracula or the interaction between Belmont and Sypha. Honestly,
Okay. Like I love the way Trevor is still a bumbling drunk when he takes down the Cyclops. Um, episode 7 is definitely of season 2 is definitely one of my favorite episodes of all time of any anime because the siege on Dracula's castle, it's like the reason why we want video game movies or adaptations of any kind. First of all, they go in, right? And as soon as the enemies detect that they're coming in, they actually play Bloody Tears, which is one of the main hymns or music bites from the Castlevania library of amazing music. Which, by the way, that's another thing why Castlevania is world renowned. Its music is off the charts. Like my wife plays piano and she loves the Castlevania music and she plays a lot of that too. Like that's her stuff. So they're playing an orchestrated version for the show of Bloody Tears, and you see all three of them, Alucard,
You want
Sypha,
to know?
and Trevor fighting against all the hordes, and Bloody Tears playing, and it's like, to me, everything exploded, because
You
to
know?
me,
Okay.
I'll give you a minute right now, Isaac. One of the things that blew my mind is one of the things that I wasn't that happy about in season 1 and in the beginning of season 2 is that I really didn't recognize any of the music. Like a lot of the music was original to the show. And then when they get to Dracula's castle and they actually fight and you hear Bloody Tears, I lose my mind. But then it clicked. Wait, that's why you didn't hear any music. Because in the game, all the music that you hear is because they're inside the castle. And it's not till they actually go into the castle to hunt him that you hear the music. And I don't know if that's what they were thinking. That's the way I saw it, and it blew my mind. That's why it's one of my favorite episodes. Apart from the fact that the battle is fantastic. Isaac, what were you gonna say?
Funny thing is, they accidentally leaked that the Bloody Tears would be added to Super Smash Bros. Before they revealed Simon and Richter the day after. Ironically enough, but
Well,
yeah, what you're saying is actually a interesting little tidbit, because there is like few tidbits here and there on from the games that where if you are a castle, even someone that hasn't played that many Castlevania games, notice you can notice for several you can notice several
right,
uh,
right.
instant
Like they even
pieces.
took the time to hide a piece of chicken in one of the walls of the castle, which is like stupid. But even stuff like little Easter eggs like that, like they did a lot of stuff like this. I don't know. This video game adaptation does a lot of things right. They have a perfect cast, and they don't waste the cast at all. There's so many complex characters. But before we, do you have any other moments that you want to dig into before we jump into season 3?
The moment where Dracula realized what about he's doing with Alucard is heartbreaking.
Yes, and it's like the journey of Dracula coming full circle when he crashes, when he punches Alucard through the wall, and when you go inside, he finds out that this room that he kicked his son's ass in is actually his childhood room. And Dracula breaks down and he cries, and you're like crying with him, and Alucard is crying, and he ends up killing his dad because that's what he dad like. His dad cannot die by natural means because he's freaking Dracula. So he needs it's like it's like the equivalent in a fantasy universe of, it's like a type of euthanasia where he assisted his dad because his dad really wanted
But
this.
what was the last word you said?
Euthanasia, like when someone assists someone else to die peacefully, either because they're in life support or because they have a fatal illness and they don't want to get it treated. It's a very hotly debated topic where,
Okay, I have never heard that word.
yeah, so it's one of those topics that people rarely talk about, but it's something that does happen. One of the examples in modern movies that I've seen of that is, if you remember the Clint Eastwood classic $1 Million Baby.
I haven't seen it.
So okay, so I'm not going to spoil it, but there's an act of euthanasia in the movie where there's a character that really is not living because of a condition, and one of the characters makes a decision with that character asks the other person to let them die, and the other person helps, and that's technically what happens. and they're both crying, and you can see Alucard suffering the death of his father in season 3 um throughout, but he understands that he did it for the good of humanity, but also to release his father from the hurt that he suffered at the loss of his mother. And it's heartbreaking, and there's moments like this throughout the whole show, in different degrees of emotional resonance. um Now let's talk about season 3. We just saw it. It just came
Oh,
out
chicka,
today.
wow, wow.
And
Oh,
no,
chicka,
Isaac, we're not
wow,
going to talk
wow.
about how Trevor thinks that
Ooh,
that
yeah.
Sypha's cool feet
Ooh,
are like
yeah.
ice that she wants to shove up her ass.
Bow, bow,
Um,
bow, 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 bow.
okay, Isaac, bring it. My God. So season 3 of Castlevania. I loved it. I loved it because I think this is the busiest season we've seen. Like there's a lot of stuff going all over the place. Like you have a separate story with you have 4 different main arcs. You have everything that's going on with Alucard and the twins, I think they're twins. You have Trevor and Sypha doing the whole thing at the town of Liebenstein or whatever its name, Livenfield or whatever its name. You have Isaac gathering his army, and you have Hector as the president of Carmilla and the warrior queens of Striga and of Styria, whatever they are.
Question.
Yeah,
Is Carmilla based on the vampire Carmilla from the literature? There's another literature book about a lesbian vampire called Carmilla.
I do not know. I know that I read once that I think she's one of those characters like Hector and Isaac that have a very small role in some game of Castlevania.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
just wondering because the way that character is supposed to be seductive and manipulative, and when I saw her in the season 2, I just is she based on that character?
yeah, I love how they expanded. I love how they added more characters, but all the characters that they're adding, they didn't add them all in the same place. Like you see different characters throughout the different storylines, but I like how the amount of different characters that they introduced, because they introduced all these new characters in throughout the 4 different storylines, the show never felt crowded. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like it's very
Sometimes it
easy.
did, sometimes it did not.
You think it felt crowded?
Sometimes, yeah, because how should I put it? With season 1, there's basically two arcs,
Right.
and with season 1, I mean, season 2 was essentially 2 arcs there too. Yes, we have the Isaac and Hector arc, but the arc was very reintegrated with Dracula's arc, so it was sort of like a side arc.
Right.
Then now we have suddenly for Isaac's arc, getting his army and wanting revenge. He has we have now Hector and his being a slave slash prisoner part. We have the part of Trevor and
Seva?
Trevor and Sypha boinking each other while finding
Okay,
where
come on.
they should
The
going.
arc is not about that. That's not what the arc's about. We actually even
Yeah,
don't even ever see them doing it. We just know it
but,
happens. They're naked a lot. That's all
it's
we know.
they are boinking a lot while they're trying to figure out their life, and then we have the Bill Nye's character that wants to find a certain someone that got lost in a mighty corridor, so to speak.
Yeah, the infinite quarter of LSD. Why
Yeah.
does it feel like the infinite quarter is an LSD reference? That's how it feels. I mean,
Also,
that's not what it is.
Also, I don't know if you remember this, but they announced that they were doing a Devil May Cry anime, and they are
That
supposed
was like
to,
last year, right?
yeah, and they are going to cross over with the Castlevania. So
Huh.
my question is this plot point connected to Bill Nye's character, whose name is whose name is
Count Saint Germain.
yeah. If his arc is connected to how they are going to crossing over, so to speak, considering we saw, let us say that they show a bit science fiction and were
Yes.
inspired by a certain Marvel movie.
Yes. We see when you go into the Infinite Corridor, and Isaac, we're
We
talking
don't.
spoilers. So we're talking spoilers.
Okay.
So when we talk about the Infinite Corridor, you literally see something like the multiverse visualization that you see like in the Doctor Strange movie. And they show robots and like safaris and places that look like if they were the real world. Um, but it's definitely, if they're gonna do a crossover with Devil May Cry, they definitely are going to be using the Infinite Corridor as the mechanic to do so. I don't see why they wouldn't.
They talked about it
But I
when they
also liked how
announced.
this. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
They mentioned that they are going to uh, do crossovers with them when they announced when they announced that. It's funny. The, the before they announced the Devil May Cry part, it was rumored that the supposed anime that he was going to do was a Legend of Zelda anime, but oh well, that's something for a different time.
Well, and what I liked about the fact, well, to me, it didn't feel crowded. To me, there was enough distance between all the different story arcs and the characters that you can actually follow the stories individually.
Yeah, that's not my problem, because you can get a grasp on each individual arc. It's just that, how should I put it? It felt like it needed maybe 2 episode more, just because
Well,
some arcs felt less less developed than the others, if you know what I mean.
well, I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that because, like, when you look at the show, I mean, the main arc is you have like I don't know who was it. I think I read it in the Wisecrack has this podcast on Rick and Morty of all things. And they talk always how some episodes have an A arc, a B arc, and you have like different layers of arcs. Like the A arc of of this particular season is definitely the Trevor and the Sypha arc. Like that's the main one. Second to that one, you have Alucard, and then you have Isaac and Hector on the wayside. So to me, the fact that 75% of those arcs kind of closed out from where they started to a degree, or they all closed out to a degree, to me was satisfactory. I mean, I can see how some of them probably took more to develop that than others, but it was probably because they weren't as important. Um, I do like though. I think it's safe to say that the finale, which is primarily episode 9, that whole finale between you having 4 climaxes, and that's not a pun, Isaac.
Well,
And you
I
having
mean, if we were talking of boinking before, then uh, then
4 climax.
now we're going to a whole nother level. And then
so so we having 4 arcs, and so the
and they
fact
all
that you have
came together.
wow, you're just making it worse. So when you have these 4 arcs closing, the whole battle between the fiends from hell, between Sypha and 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 Trevor, and all the different monstrous animals. That whole thing was phenomenal. The villain that Isaac fights against, that's one of the most popular bosses in Castlevania. Or you see multiple versions of this boss, which is like a bowl. It's like a ball of dead people. Like that's directly from the game. So the way they brought this to life, and here's the best thing. What this show does right is another thing that Sonic the Hedgehog movie did great, is that they took a lot of the things that were iconic and made them organic. Like they
Yeah.
didn't just throw this random enemy. Literally, they built it into the story of Isaac and where he was going through. Is something that he tackled as he was traveling. Um, it didn't have too much explanation. Like they gave us enough information to be prepared for what's coming, but then they surprised us and they just let us be wowed by it. You know what I mean? Like they gave enough exposition, not too much.
Yeah.
And when it actually happened, it's glorious. So Isaac solidifies himself as a threat. Carmilla solidifies her, and Lenore, more than anything, Lenore solidifies herself as a threat
A
because now she
seductive,
controls Hector.
a seductive threat, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
Bow
Um,
bow.
um, you can see a little bit of Dracula creaking up on Alucard
Yeah.
because
This,
everything. Yeah,
and speaking of Dracula, is a certain cameo a foreshadowing for the next season, perhaps?
maybe it is very possible. I would even say, what if Dracula joins up with Mundus, and that's where you get the crossover? I don't know. I'm just
Because,
saying.
but yeah, you could maybe go in the direction of instead of because they are resurrecting Dracula in one of the games. I can't remember which.
Well,
Maybe
that's
they're
the whole
doing.
thing. Almost in every game, he comes back.
Yeah,
And so-
but here's the thing, because they have taken some liberties. What if instead of their um, resurrect Dracula, they make Alucard Dracula, so to speak? He, considering how he ends up
I
in
would.
the end of the show.
Yep, yep. I wouldn't be surprised, because the whole thing about the show is that now that Dracula's gone, which is what I loved about season 3, because now that Dracula's gone, everybody, like, you're trying to look for the next villain. Like everybody automatically looks like, how are you going to top that? So you see all the different forces, whether of good or bad, they're like watching the evil that's forming around them. Um, but one of the things that this show explores very well is how susceptible humanity is to evil, and and how you. One of the things that I like about the show also, because it's throughout, not just in season 3, is how a lot of times you see how people lose faith in humanity because humans are scared of change, are scared of things that are different, which I think it's kind of like a social commentary that I think the show is trying to make. One could say that the ideas of racism and stuff like that are explored in this show in that way, or you not liking or not getting along with other people because they're different. Um, I don't know. This show is a lot of things that are good, and I think that's one of the many things that they explore. But yeah, season 3, I liked it. Um, do you have a favorite scene for season 3?
No comment. And I will say this: the last two episodes, even if it has some epic scenes, the designs of the monsters gave me Neon Genesis Evangelion flashbacks, and I don't know if that's a good thing or not.
Oh boy. You know what? I don't blame you. They were angels and demons in their own rights. But yeah, season 3 was awesome. I think this show has been consistently good. I don't.
Uh, The only thing I was with how the last two episodes where I was starting to wondering if those angels and demons were starting to boinking each other, considering what they were doing with some other characters.
How do you mean?
You know very well, I mean.
No, you said angels and demons, so I don't know. How do you mean?
If they would boink each other, considering what happened to two other characters during the fight, so to speak.
I'm a little lost.
What happened to Alucard and Hector?
Oh, that they were both. Yeah.
Yeah,
And you know what's funny? You know what's funny? The two people that you know are in love and get together, you don't see them doing anything. Only the evil people do stuff. Like they actually have intercourse, and it turns out horribly for them. Well, Alucard's not evil, but like sadly, two people that are technically kind-hearted get betrayed during intercourse, so it's like they're gonna be scarred for life. But then again, the way at least Alucard retaliated was like pretty vicious. But man, Alucard has gone through a lot, and I'm not surprised if the fact that he's alone again is gonna kind of push him towards the dark side, which is kind of what they're teasing for season 4. I just hope that they announce that they're going to do season 4 very soon so that I can rest easy because this show has been phenomenal and I need more of it in my veins.
yeah.
Um,
But we say that we both give it an S, maybe.
definitely, definitely, definitely. They do a great job. I love how they explore the whole thing with Isaac becoming his own person. Um, the whole thing with Hector being betrayed again because he's too good. I don't know. There's so much of this show that I love. Um, I I don't know. This show is so good. And I'm glad that we were able to cover it. And you at home, if you have not seen Castlevania, you definitely need to see it. We want to know your thoughts on this show. So whenever you have a chance, watch it, listen to the pod, and write to us here what you think of Castlevania. This show is fantastic. I really hope that if they do Devil May Cry, we know that it's in good hands because if when Powerhouse does it, they're gonna bring their A game just like they brought it to Castlevania. They're gonna bring it to Devil May Cry because I know one thing: there is a Devil May Cry anime,
But
and
that
it's
one
not good,
sucks.
and it's not good.
It's
So we really hope they bring their A game to this, and I can't wait to watch it. I would actually hope that they start with the storyline for Devil May Cry 3, which is like one of the best games in the whole franchise, and it is a prequel to the first one too. So I would really like them to do that. Um, but yeah, I mean, we give it an S at the Amateur Otaku, Isaac, right? This is an S-rated show. We don't have a lot of S-rated anime that we cover, but definitely Castlevania is an S-rated show. If you love the game, watch the anime. If you love anime like Hellsing, Neon Genesis, um, I would even say like Demon Slayer, Kitetsu no Aiba. If you like anime of that nature, watch Castlevania. It is totally up your alley. It's one of the best Western anime out there ever made, and season 3 just released. So go watch Castlevania. That's all I got, Isaac.
You can find me on Emblemaniac on Twitter with a C, and you can also find my work over at Woban Entertainment, and you can find me over at Instagram at Maniac92, and we also have a Instagram page for the Amateur Otaku, which is basically just the Amateur Otaku. I recently started off to say just to branch out, so to speak.
And you can find me on Twitter at the Scarlet Fan 52. And if you have any anime that you want us to cover in season 2, season 2 is just starting. We have a full catalog of shows that we're going to talk about. But if there's anything in particular, any anime in particular that you guys want us to cover, shoot us a DM at Amateur Otaku Pod, or you can shoot us an email at amateurotakurtf@gmail.com. We definitely want to hear from you. Thank you for joining us for the whole year one and for joining us now in season 2 onward. We have a great future ahead. If you love movies, check out our other podcasts, The Shatter After at The Shatter After or anchor.fn.The Shatter After, where we talk movies and analysis. We talked about Joker on the first episode, and we talked about Sonic the Hedgehog movie on the second. We have a lot of great content coming, and we look forward to talking more anime with you in the future. Have it awesome, guys. Peace.
Arthur Curry.